The stars above Thalassa's frozen surface blinked quietly in the sky as Captain Raylan Pierce's small scout ship cut through the atmosphere. It was supposed to be a routine mission: survey the moon for mineral traces, take some readings, and report back to Earth's command. But routine missions never stayed routine for long. As Raylan flew over the northern ice fields, his sensors picked up something strange, a faint distress signal, old, weak, and nearly lost in the static. It was in no human language, but his ship's AI translated one word clearly: help. Raylan frowned. That's not a human pod, he said. The signal came from a deep ice canyon. With expert hands, Raylan lowered his ship through the narrow valley. Blizzard swept past the hull. At the bottom, half buried in a snowdrift, was the blackened shape of a broken alien escape pod. Its surface was smooth and silver with glowing blue markings now flickering faintly. He grabbed his coat, emergency supplies, and oxygen mask, then stepped into the freezing wind. Inside the wreck, it was dim and silent. Raylan's flashlight swept across shattered panels and collapsed walls. The pod was old, maybe weeks, maybe months. Most of the systems were dead. But something moved in. The back. Raylan's heart jumped. He raised his scanner. There, curled under the remains of a torn survival blanket, was a humanoid figure, slender, motionless, breathing weakly. A girl. She looked about his age, maybe younger. Pale lavender skin shimmered slightly in the light. Her long silver-white hair was tangled and frozen. Her body was wrapped in the remains of some ceremonial robe, barely clinging to her in the cold. Most of it had been eaten away by the elements. She shivered but didn't wake. "Human?" Raylan whispered. The scanner answered for him. "Unknown species. Humanoid. Life signs. Critical." He didn't waste time. Raylan slipped his emergency cloak over her, activated the heat shield, and gently lifted her into his arms. She was light, almost too light. He moved quickly back through the snow, shielding her from the wind. Back aboard his ship, Raylan placed her inside the med bay. His AI, Sarah, activated the medical scan. "Vitals stabilizing," Sarah said. "Severe hypothermia, malnutrition, minor fractures. Recommend rest, fluids, and controlled warming." Raylan sighed in relief. "She'll make it then?" "If she rests, yes," Sarah confirmed. Raylan looked at her again. Who was she? Where had she come from? And why was she alone? Hours passed. Raylan sat near her, eating from a ration pack and watching the stars through the window. The girl stirred. Slowly her eyes opened. They were large, violet, and filled with confusion. She looked around, first at the room, then at him. "It's okay," Raylan said, raising his hands. "You're safe." She tried to speak, but the words were strange, musical. Sarah's translator worked quickly, offering a rough version. "You are not Serenthi," she said weakly. "No," Raylan replied. "I'm human. From Earth." She blinked slowly. "You rescued me." "I found your pod in the snow," he explained. "It was almost out of power. You would have frozen." She stared at him in silence. Then she sat up slightly, still, wrapped in the heat cloak. "You touched me, and you still live." Raylan frowned. "I didn't mean to break any rules." "No," she said softly. "It is just unexpected." Her name was Ilaria. She said little else at first. She was cautious, guarded, but Raylan noticed her watching him, curious, not afraid. Each time he offered food or water, she studied him, as if trying to understand his intentions. He didn't ask personal questions. He just helped. By the second day, she was stronger. She walked slowly through the ship, touching the walls, examining the controls. "This ship," she said, "is small but powerful. Scouting class, Raylan replied. Fast, light, good for quiet missions. She looked at him thoughtfully. And you fly it alone? Always. Strange. Most species send many. You humans, send one. Raylan chuckled. Sometimes, one is enough. That evening, while Ilaria sat near the heater, Raylan repaired a damaged panel in the cockpit. He could feel her eyes on him again. You are not like the others, she said finally. Others? He asked. Other species? Other males? She paused. You saved me. But you didn't ask for anything. Raylan looked at her. Should I have? She didn't answer, but her face softened. Humans, she whispered. We thought you were primitive, warlike. But you showed mercy. I'm just doing what's right. Ilaria turned her gaze to the stars. Maybe the galaxy was wrong about your kind. As she rested again, Raylan stood alone in the control room, arms crossed. Sarah's voice came quietly. She is not just anyone, Captain. What do you mean? Based on her genetic markers and ceremonial dress, her title may be High Daughter, possibly a princess of the Scifi Dominion. Raylan's eyes widened. A princess? Yes. And the Scifi, they don't lose princesses by accident. Raylan felt a chill deeper than the cold outside. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a diplomatic event that could change everything. The ship floated quietly above Thalassa, hidden behind an icy ridge, while the stars continued their endless dance above. Inside, warmth filled the small interior, and the silence was peaceful. But underneath it, both Captain Raylan and Ilaria carried thoughts they weren't ready to share. Ilaria was recovering quickly. Her skin had regained its healthy glow, and her strength was returning. She now walked the ship with ease, though still wrapped in the emergency cloak Raylan had given her. He had offered her spare clothing, but most of it didn't fit. She simply smiled and said, This is enough. I do not need much. But what she did need, Raylan noticed, was space to think. One morning, Raylan was reviewing reports when Ilaria entered the cockpit. She stood silently for a while, watching the stars through the window. You said your people call this place Earth? She asked softly. That's right, he nodded. Third planet from our star. Blue oceans, green forests, and too many politics. She smiled faintly. It sounds alive. It is, Raylan said. And we've worked hard to earn our place in the stars. Ilaria turned to him. Your people came here without permission. Raylan paused. We scan unclaimed systems. This one didn't show any active claim. She tilted her head. To the Scifi. Every moon near our border is sacred. Raylan looked at her closely. Then why didn't your people mark it? She said nothing. Later that day, Ilaria stood in front of the ship's AI interface. Her fingers moved slowly, learning the symbols and commands. Raylan watched from behind. You're picking that up fast, he said. She glanced at him. Scifi minds are trained early. We're taught to adapt, to learn. Raylan leaned against the wall. You're not just some royal, are you? Ilaria froze. He continued gently. Sarah scanned your DNA. Said you might be important. Maybe even a princess. Ilaria didn't deny it. She simply lowered her eyes and said, I am called High Daughter of House Varel. High Daughter? Raylan echoed. In your terms, princess, yes. But I hold more than just a title. She looked at him seriously. My voice decides the balance of 3 star systems. My presence decides peace or war. Raylan stared at her. So why were you alone in a broken pod on a frozen moon? She walked over and sat down. For a moment, she said nothing. Then her voice came, low and calm. I ran away. Raylan blinked. From what? From a decision made for me, she said. The High Council ordered me to marry a warlord, someone old, cruel, and powerful. It was not for love. It was for power. Her hands tightened into fists. If I had agreed, I would have lost my mind, my voice, my freedom. So I escaped. She looked at Raylan now, her eyes sharp. But no one escapes the Scifi. That is why they will come. Not just to bring me back, but to erase anyone who helped me. Raylan didn't flinch. Let them try. Ilaria was surprised. You're not afraid. I've been chased before, he said simply. And if someone's coming to take your freedom, then they'll have to go through me first. For the first time since they met, Ilaria smiled, genuinely, warmly. You are strange for a human, she said. Strange is good, Raylan replied. Normal's boring. Later, Raylan showed her Earth music, old songs from history, classical, folk, even soft jazz. Ilaria closed her eyes and listened as if hearing something magical. There's emotion in every note, she whispered. Your people pour their hearts into sound. He nodded. We don't have advanced tech like others, but we feel deeply. That's our strength. She looked at him for a long time. Maybe that's what scared the older empires. Why? Because they can't understand you. They don't control you. That night, alarms flashed red on the control screen. Sensors triggered, Sarah reported. Unidentified ship detected entering Thalassa's orbit. Cloaked, tracking us. Raylan stood quickly. How close? Within 50,000 kilometers, based on signature Scifi Royal Guard. Ilaria stood beside him. They found me. Raylan clenched his jaw. How long do we have? 6 hours before they can land, Sarah said. Ilaria looked at Raylan. You should leave me here. If they find me with you, they'll see it as a crime. You'll be hunted. Raylan met her gaze. You're not just some cargo. You're a person. And I don't abandon people. You don't understand, she said. The Scifi will send more. Soldiers, diplomats, assassins. You saved me, but now they'll say you kidnapped me. Raylan crossed his arms. Then we give them another story. What do you mean? He looked at the star chart. There's a neutral zone between Scifi and Earth territory. A diplomatic station called the Thorn Spire. Neither side can act violently there. You want to take me into Scifi space? She asked. No, Raylan said. I want to take you to a place where your voice will be heard. Ilaria hesitated. If I go there, she said, I will have to speak the truth. About my escape. About their lies. It could start a civil storm. Raylan gave a calm smile. Maybe that's what they need. Ilaria slowly nodded. Very well. I'll stand before them, but not as a runaway, as someone who chooses her own path. Raylan activated the ship's engines. Then let's show them what humans and princesses can do when they don't back down. A giant shadow moved slowly through the black sky. A Scifi Royal Guard battlecruiser. Its sleek shape was nearly invisible, covered in cloaking fields. But Raylan's scanners picked it up. The ship was powerful, built for speed and destruction, and it was heading straight for them. Inside the scout ship, alarms echoed softly. Red lights blinked across the control panel. They're here, Raylan said. Ilaria stood beside him, her arms folded in the emergency cloak. She had changed over the last 2 days. Her body had healed, and her spirit was now stronger. She was no longer just a lost royal. She was preparing for something bigger. Sarah's voice came through calmly. Scifi ship hailing us. Audio only. Raylan nodded. Let's hear it. A deep, cold voice filled the cabin. Unidentified Earth vessel. You are holding Scifi royal property. Release her now, and you will be allowed to leave unharmed. Refuse and face full consequences. Raylan. looked at Ilaria. "What do you want me to do?" She took a deep breath. "Don't answer yet. I need to speak to them, on my terms." Raylan nodded slowly. "You sure?" "Yes," she said, "but not from here. We need to move." Within minutes, Raylan's ship lifted off from the frozen moon. The engines hummed softly, and the scout cruiser turned toward the dark side of Thalassa. Using its shadow to stay hidden for a while longer, Ilaria stood near the front, staring at the Serenthi battle cruiser on the screen. "They will not stop," she said. "They believe I've betrayed my people." Raylan leaned against the console. "Why do they call you royal property? That didn't sound like someone talking about a person." Ilaria's jaw tightened. "In Serenthi law, members of royal blood are considered national assets. We are born into duty. We don't own our lives. We serve the Dominion." "That's wrong," Raylan said without hesitation. Ilaria gave a small smile. "That's what I believe too. That's why I ran." As Raylan moved the ship toward the outer edge of the system, Sarah spoke again. "Serenthi ship deploying drones. They are scanning for our exact location. Estimated time until detection, 7 minutes." Raylan's hands danced over the controls. "Then we don't have time. We need a jump route. Fast." "There is one option," Sarah replied. "A shortcut through the asteroid tangle." "Dangerous, but possible," Raylan smirked. "Danger's my middle name." Ilaria raised an eyebrow. "Is that true?" "No," he said, "but it should be." The ship dived into the asteroid tangle, a massive field of broken rock and debris, left from an ancient planet destroyed thousands of years ago. The rocks drifted slowly, but the field was dense, stretching across light years. Raylan's fingers gripped the controls tightly as the scout ship wove between spinning boulders. "This place is chaos," Ilaria said, watching the movement outside. "Perfect place to hide," Raylan replied. "They'll lose sight of us here," Sarah interrupted. "Warning! Serenthi drones have entered the tangle. 2 closing in fast." Raylan's jaw tightened. "Can't shoot. We give away our position." Ilaria's eyes flashed. "Then we must outthink them." Working together, Raylan and Ilaria powered down all non-essential systems and released a decoy beacon in a different direction. The drones followed the signal, passing them in the darkness. "Good idea," Raylan said. Ilaria gave a proud smile. "Serenthi training isn't just for show." Hours later, the scout ship exited the tangle and approached the edge of the neutral zone, a space protected by ancient treaties signed by dozens of alien civilizations. No weapons could be fired there. No army could enter without sparking galactic war. At its center was the Thorn Spire, a massive floating station shaped like a twisting tower of silver and black. It was one of the few places in the galaxy where enemies sat at the same table. Raylan stared at it. "We made it," but Ilaria's face was troubled. "They will not be happy," she said. "They will accuse you of manipulating me, of using me." Raylan shrugged. "They can say what they want. We know the truth." As they approached the docking ring, a new message came through. "Earth Alliance vessel, identify." Raylan answered. "Captain Raylan Pierce, carrying Serenthi citizen requesting diplomatic shelter." There was a long pause. Then came the reply. "Permission granted. Docking Bay 14. Be aware. Serenthi representatives have also requested an audience." Raylan looked at Ilaria. "You ready for this?" She straightened her shoulders. "More than ever." Inside the Thorn Spire, the air was cooler, and the walls shimmered with ancient energy. Raylan walked beside Ilaria as they moved through the grand halls. Alien ambassadors passed them, some watching, others whispering. At the central chamber, a group of tall, armored Serenthi stood waiting. Their robes were dark blue with silver trim, and their faces were hidden behind helmets. One stepped forward. His voice was familiar. "Princess Ilaria," he said, "we have come to bring you home." She looked him in the eye. "And I have come to speak the truth. Raylan stood silently beside her. "You are being used," the Scifi commander said. "This human has clouded your mind." Ilaria raised her voice. "No, he has shown me freedom. He saved me without asking for anything. He treated me as a person, not a tool." The commander's voice hardened. "You are a daughter of Varel. Your duty is to the Dominion." "My duty," she said, "is to my people, not to a corrupt system that treats life like property." The chamber fell, silent. Raylan felt tension rise. He stepped forward. "I have recordings of everything she told me. Her injuries, her escape. If anyone doubts her story, let them see it." The Scifi looked angry, but they said nothing. The laws of the neutral zone held them back. A council official entered the room. "You may both present your case tomorrow, before the Galactic Council. Until then, peace must be respected." Ilaria nodded. "We will be ready." That night, back in their guest room, Raylan looked at her across the table. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Once this starts, there's no going back." Ilaria looked out the window at the stars. "I was born into silence," she said softly. "But now I've found my voice. I won't lose it again." Raylan smiled. "Then let's make history." Inside the mighty thorn spire, the great halls echoed with low voices, footsteps, and the hum of ancient machines. Ambassadors from across the galaxy were arriving for the emergency hearing called by the Scifi Dominion. At the center of it, all stood Princess Ilaria, calm but focused, wrapped in a ceremonial cloak provided by the station. Beside her was Captain Raylan Pierce, quiet but alert, wearing his Earth Alliance uniform with pride. Today they would face the Galactic Council, a place where truth could change empires or start wars. The council chamber was massive, a circular room with rising seats, each held by a different alien species. Holographic flags hovered in the air. The walls shifted with soft lights. In the center stood a single platform, shaped like a star. As the session began, a deep voice filled the chamber. "This hearing is now open. Matter: unauthorized movement of a royal Scifi citizen and human interference. Present your case." The Scifi envoy stepped forward first. He was tall and cold, his voice smooth but hard. His name was Ambassador Vorn. "Princess Ilaria was taken by a human operative under suspicious circumstances," he began. "We believe Captain Pierce manipulated her, possibly using unknown technology or tactics to interfere with Scifi law. We demand her immediate return." Raylan's eyes narrowed. Ilaria remained still, her gaze fixed forward. The council turned to her. "High Daughter Ilaria, do you agree with this version of events?" She stepped forward. "No, I was not taken. I escaped from my own people." Murmurs spread across the chamber. I was being forced into a political union, one I did not choose. According to Scifi law, I had no right to refuse. I would lose my freedom, my thoughts, even my voice. I ran to protect myself. Vorn interrupted. "The union was approved by the council. It was for peace." Ilaria raised her hand. "Peace should not be built on fear or silence. The man I was meant to marry is a tyrant who controls through cruelty." The room grew quiet. She continued, her voice stronger. "Captain Pierce found me half dead in the ice fields. He gave me warmth, food, safety. He asked for nothing in return. If anything, he showed more honor than many leaders of my own kind." Raylan stood beside her now. "All I did was help someone who needed it. That's what humans do." One council member leaned forward. "What do you want now, Princess?" Ilaria took a deep breath. "I ask for the right to speak for myself. I ask for protection, not from war, but from forced duty. I ask that others like me, those born into power, are allowed to choose their own paths." The chamber went silent again. Then the council announced a break. Raylan and Ilaria stepped into the quiet waiting room. Outside, guards stood like statues. Raylan looked at her. "You did great." Ilaria nodded, but her hands were shaking. "I've never spoken against them in public before." "You just lit a fire," Raylan said. "Even if they don't like it, they can't unhear it." But peace never comes easily. Later that night, Sarah picked up a secret message on the station's private channel. "Encrypted transmission," Sarah said. "From an unknown Scifi source." Raylan played the file. A blurry hologram appeared. "A young Scifi officer in dark robes. I am an ally," the message said. "There are plans to remove Ilaria quietly if the council votes against her. She must not return to Scifi space. They fear what she represents." Raylan looked at Ilaria. "They're afraid you'll inspire others." She nodded slowly. "Because if I can choose my future, others will want the same." The next morning, the council gave their ruling. The Galactic Council recognizes the request of Princess Ilaria to remain under protection. She is no longer to be considered property or political tool of the Scifi Dominion. Vorn shouted, "This is a mistake!" The council leader ignored him. "The decision is final. Any attempt to forcefully remove her will be seen as an act of war." Ilaria closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. Raylan smiled beside her, but outside the chamber, danger still waited. As they returned to their ship, the hallway suddenly dimmed. Power flickered. The station shook. "What was that?" Raylan asked. Sarah's voice came sharply. "Warning! Unauthorized ship approaching Thornspire, not responding to communication. Weapon systems active." Raylan's heart sank. "It's them." A Scifi rogue warship appeared on the outer scanners. It wasn't part of the official fleet. This one was a private vessel, fast, deadly, and loyal to the warlord Ilaria had escaped from. "They're going to try to take her by force," Raylan said. Inside the ship, Raylan took the pilot seat. Ilaria buckled into the co-pilot's chair. "I won't hide anymore," she said, "but I won't be captured either. Then let's show them what two freedom lovers can do." As the enemy ship opened fire, the Thornspire activated its defense grid, blocking most of the blasts. But the rogue vessel sent boarding pods straight at the dock. Raylan's ship lifted just in time, dodging debris. "We can't outgun them," Raylan said, "but we can outrun them." "Where to?" Ilaria asked. "To the edge of Scifi space. There's a diplomatic convoy leaving soon. If we join them, they won't be able to touch us." As enemy ships gave chase, Raylan spun the ship through a tight gravity ring. Ilaria activated countermeasures. Explosions flashed behind them, but they kept flying. 3 more minutes to convoy," Sarah reported. Raylan laughed. "That's all I need." With seconds to spare, their ship crossed into the convoy's shielded path. Scifi vessels stopped, unable to follow without starting a war. Ilaria looked back at the stars behind them, her face calm. "They lost," she said. Raylan looked ahead. "No, they just saw what freedom looks like." Raylan's ship flew steadily through the safe zone, following the diplomatic convoy toward the most important location in Scifi space, the Council of Thorns. The council was an ancient station built from twisting silver vines of metal and crystal. It hung in space like a floating crown, lit by glowing energy veins. This place was older than Earth's entire space history, a place where war had ended and peace had once begun. And now, it would become the center of something new. Princess Ilaria stood at the viewing window, eyes fixed on the glowing structure. "This is where my people decide the fate of entire systems," she said quietly. "Now it's where I'll speak for those who've never had a voice." Raylan stood beside her. "And if they try to silence you again?" Ilaria turned to him, calm but determined. "Then the galaxy will know that Scifi law fears the truth. After docking, the two were escorted through high corridors made of glass and stone. Their steps echoed in the silence. Ancient statues lined the halls, leaders of the past with eyes carved in judgment. At the entrance of the council chamber, Serenthi guards stopped Raylan. "Only Serenthi blood may enter beyond this point," one said. Ilaria stepped forward, voice steady. "Then let it be known, he is my witness. He stays." The guards hesitated, then stepped aside. Raylan looked at her. "Thanks," she replied with a soft smile. "You saved me. Now we face them together." Inside, the chamber was vast and cold. A ring of council elders sat in tall, curved chairs. Each wore traditional robes with silver linings, and each watched Ilaria with unreadable expressions. Ati. The center stood Elder Malith, the most powerful voice on the council and once a close ally of Ilaria's family. He spoke first. "Ilaria Virel, you return to us not as a royal, but as a runaway, a rebel. Do you understand the seriousness of your actions?" "I do," she answered, "and I do not regret them." Gasps echoed softly. "You abandoned your duty," another elder said. "You refused the union that was meant to unite two powerful houses." "I refuse to be traded like a weapon," Ilaria answered firmly. "I am not a prize. I am not an object. I am a person." Malith's voice sharpened. "And this human, Captain Pierce, what role does he play?" Raylan stepped forward. "I helped her survive. That's all." Malith raised an eyebrow. "Why?" Raylan replied without hesitation. "Because she needed help. No politics, no plan. Just a person saving another." A murmur ran through the council. Ilaria took the center platform and looked at each elder. "You taught me our history," she said. "You taught me that Serenthi law protects life, honors thought, and values wisdom. But when I chose my own future, you turned your backs on me. Why?" "You are young," an elder said. "You do not understand the weight of the throne." "I understand it better now than ever," she said, "because freedom has weight too, and so does truth." Then she pulled out a crystal disc, a memory stone. She placed it on the speaking pedestal. A hologram appeared, showing her escape pod, her injuries, and Raylan wrapping her in the cloak without hesitation. It showed her recovering, learning, speaking, and thinking freely for the first time. "You see with your own eyes," she said. "This man could have used me, could have claimed me as ransom. Instead, he gave me warmth and safety." "He influenced you," another elder said. "He changed your mind." "No," Ilaria said calmly. "He gave me the space to make up my own mind. And now I know I will never be silent again." Silence filled the chamber. Then Malith stood. "Ilaria, what do you want?" She met his gaze. "I want change. Not just for me, but for every child of noble blood who grows up thinking they have no choice. I want Serenthi law to recognize the right to refuse, the right to speak, the right to live." A long pause followed. One by one, the council members whispered and debated in their native tongue. Raylan couldn't understand the words, but he could feel the tension in the air. Something was shifting. Finally, Malith raised his hand. "This council will vote on two matters. First, whether Ilaria Virel remains free of forced union. Second, whether Serenthi tradition will evolve to include personal choice for future royal heirs." Ilaria held her breath. Lights blinked. Across the room as votes were cast, one by one, the results appeared above the council. Ilaria's freedom, approved. Law change, approved by majority. Raylan smiled. Ilaria closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek, not from sadness, but relief. As the chamber began to clear, Malith approached her. "You have made enemies," he said, "but also allies. Ready for both, she replied. He turned to Raylan. You, Captain, may have changed Serenthi history. Raylan gave a small smile. Not bad for a guy with a small ship and no plan. Malith nodded. Your kind may be newer to the stars, but perhaps you bring something we've forgotten. Later, back aboard their ship, Ilaria sat quietly by the window. You did it, Raylan said. No, she said. We did. Raylan looked at her. What happens now? She turned to him with a new light in her eyes. I no longer belong to just one world, she said. Maybe it's time to walk between both. After the council's decision, everything began to change. Slowly but surely. Ilaria was no longer a runaway. She was now a symbol of change across the Serenthi worlds. Her voice, once quiet and ignored, had become a wave of hope, especially among the younger generation. Across space stations and homeworlds, people spoke her name with respect and sometimes even with admiration. Raylan Pierce watched all of this from the side, proud but always thoughtful. He had never planned to become a part of Serenthi history, but now his name was mentioned in reports, stories, and political debates. I didn't expect to be famous, he joked one day as he walked with Ilaria through the ship's observation deck. You're not famous, she replied with a smirk. You're just unforgettable, he laughed. I'll take it. Their ship was now a shared space. Raylan had refitted it with help from Serenthi engineers. The once rugged freighter now carried Serenthi tech, defensive upgrades, and advanced communication systems, but it still had the same spirit, a ship built for exploration and freedom. They named it Unity's Edge. Together, Raylan and Ilaria began traveling from planet to planet, not as soldiers or rulers, but as messengers of change. Ilaria spoke to councils, students, and common citizens. Her words were simple, but powerful. Tradition is only strong when it grows with its people. Raylan, on the other hand, helped bridge the gap between humans and Serenthi. He answered questions, shared Earth's culture, and showed them that humanity, though young among the stars, had something valuable, a heart that refused to give up. On one quiet moon orbiting a green gas giant, they landed for a diplomatic visit. The moon was home to a mixed colony of humans and Serenthi settlers trying to build a new society together. But when they arrived, the atmosphere was tense. The colony leader, a Serenthi named Varric, greeted them with a troubled look. There's been unrest, he said. Old laws still cause conflict. Some Serenthi believe humans should not have equal status here. Raylan frowned. We came to help, not to rule. Ilaria placed a hand over her chest. Let us speak to them. A town hall meeting was held under the glowing night sky. Dozens gathered. Some shouted. Some begged for peace. Others were just tired. Ilaria stepped forward. When I chose my own path, I was called a traitor. But I chose peace. I chose truth. And I stand here now to say, you are not enemies. You are builders of something new. One Serenthi elder stood up. But humans do not follow our customs. They do not bow to our ways. Raylan stepped beside Ilaria. You're right, we don't. But maybe that's not weakness. Maybe that's what makes us strong together. You follow honor. We follow freedom. If we combine both, maybe this colony becomes the example the galaxy needs. There was silence. Then, slowly, people began to nod. By morning, a new agreement was written. Humans and Serenthi would share leadership. Laws would be updated to respect both cultures, and both languages would be taught in schools. Before they left, a small girl, half human, half Serenthi, ran to Ilaria and gave her a flower made from moon crystals. You're my favorite princess, the girl said. Ilaria smiled, kneeling beside her. And you're my hope for the future. Back aboard the Unity's Edge, Raylan looked at Ilaria as the ship rose above the colony. You know, he said, you don't really need me anymore. Ilaria looked at him, serious. That's not true. You're strong, A leader now. You're changing the galaxy. And you think I'd want to do that without the person who reminded me how to believe in myself? She asked. Raylan paused. You're saying I should stay? I'm saying you already belong, she whispered. As their ship entered the starlit path beyond the system, a new message came in. It was from Earth. The United Human Coalition wanted to officially open talks with the Serenthi Council. They had seen the change, the hope, the possibility of peace, and they wanted to be part of it. Raylan looked at Ilaria. Well, you ready to meet my people? She grinned. Only if they're ready to meet me? Later that night, the two sat together under the stars. The ship's lights dimmed. The stars outside looked endless, full of wonder and possibility. Raylan spoke softly. When I found you that day, I had no idea who you really were, and I had no idea what freedom felt like, she replied. He turned toward her. So, what are we now? Explorers? Diplomats? Rebels? Ilaria leaned her head against his shoulder. Maybe we're just a beginning. Together, they stared into the stars, knowing this wasn't the end of their journey. It was just the start of something greater.